All right, let's jump right in. You know, when we think about what keeps a plane flying safely, the first thing that probably comes to mind is fuel, right? But what if I told you there's another resource that is just as vital? We're talking about flawless, high-quality data. Today, we're going to explore the incredible, unseen system that protects this data, the Aeronautical Data Chain.
And look, that's not me being dramatic. This quote comes straight from the top, from ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization. It's right there in their global rulebook, Annex 15. And it tells you right off the bat that the stakes could not be higher. A single bad data point isn't just a typo, it's a direct threat to safety, period.
So when we talk about this data, we're not just talking about random numbers floating around. No, we're talking about a continuous, connected flow. Think of it as a journey that a piece of information takes, from the second it's created all the way to the cockpit. And that whole journey, that's what we call the Aeronautical Data Chain.
It really is like a relay race for information. It might start with a surveyor measuring a brand new runway. That data then gets passed along a chain, from one expert to the next, until it finally lands in the systems that pilots and air traffic controllers depend on every single second of every single flight.
So that brings us to the big question, especially for you students in aviation management. With all these handoffs, all these different steps, what is the single biggest risk? What's the one thing that keeps aviation safety managers up at night?
Well, this slide lays it out perfectly. It's manual data entry. The moment a human has to take numbers from a piece of paper and type them into a computer, bam, you've introduced a massive risk. A simple typo, a finger slipping on the keyboard, could have devastating consequences. That's why the entire industry is pushing towards the process you see on the right, a fully electronic, systematic chain where no human ever has to manually type in critical data.
Okay, so if this data is on such a critical journey, who's in charge of it? Who are the people and systems protecting it along the way? Well, let's meet the 5 key players. I like to call them the data guardians.
First up, you've got the surveyors. They're out in the field getting that raw data. Then they passed it to the requesting authorities. That's usually a country's Civil Aviation Authority, or CAA. From there, it goes to the originating authorities. These are the highly specialized folks who actually design the flight procedures. Next, it lands with the publishing authority, the state's Aeronautical Information Service, or AIS, who validates and officially issues it. And only then does it finally get to the end users, the pilots, the controllers, and of course, the aircraft's own computers.
And here's the most important thing to understand. Every single one of those handovers is a potential point of failure. The chain is only as strong as its weakest link. If data integrity is lost at any one of these steps, the whole thing falls apart.
So, how do you build a chain that's rock solid at every single link? Well, it is definitely not left to chance. There is an incredibly strict, multi-layered protocol that is designed specifically to lock this data down and protect its integrity.
It all starts with certified origins. The data has to come from a quality-controlled ISO 9001 certified source. Step 2, it has to stay on electronic media. No paper copies, no manual retyping. Third, and this is really cool, during any transfer, it gets what's called CRC wrapping. Fourth, it's encrypted for an extra layer of security. And finally, the AIS does one last verification, checking absolutely everything before it goes public.
Let's take just a second to talk about that CRC. Now, it sounds a little technical, but the idea is actually genius. A CRC is basically a unique value calculated from a block of data, kind of like a digital fingerprint. If even one single bit of that data gets changed during the transfer, the fingerprint on the other end won't match, and the system immediately knows the data is corrupt. It's an instant red flag.
And this is the perfect way to think about it. It's just like sending an old-fashioned letter with a wax seal on the back. If that seal is broken when it arrives, you know for a fact that someone has tampered with the message. CRC is the modern digital version of that, and it provides that same essential guarantee of integrity.
So we have our guardians, and we have our digital protocol. But here's the thing. These guardians are often completely different organizations. We're talking private surveying companies, government agencies, design firms. How on earth do you make sure they all play by the exact same incredibly strict rules?
You know, this is a classic management challenge. It's one thing to have a high standard, but it's a whole other ballgame to enforce it across a dozen different partners in a supply chain, right?
Well, the answer is a very specific and very powerful type of contract.
A Service Level Agreement, or SLA. This is not just a handshake deal, folks. This is a formal, legally binding document. It spells out exactly who is responsible for what and the precise quality standards they absolutely must meet at their particular step in the chain.
And I just love this metaphor because it is so accurate. The SLA is the management glue that holds this whole complicated system together. It makes sure every single actor, from the surveyor in the field to the publisher at the AAS, is contractually obligated to protect that data with everything they've got.
So, let's wrap this up. For all you future aviation professionals, here are the key takeaways. Number 1, data integrity is not optional, it is a flight safety critical issue. 2, the biggest enemy is manual data entry. Our goal is a 100% electronic process. 3, remember those 5 guardians of the data. 4, a tough digital protocol, especially with things like CRC, is our technical shield. And finally, number 5, SLAs are the management glue that legally binds that entire system together.
And that really brings us to what's next. Understanding this data chain is the foundation. But as we start moving toward a future of AI-powered flight and complete digital twins of aircraft, the pressure on this chain is only going to get more intense. So the real question for the next generation of aviation leaders is this: how do we evolve this system to guarantee absolute, unwavering trust in a fully digital sky?